Jay Hughes from Press On, and I'm excited that you are here. The following is a recording of my conversation with Jim McMahan, president and partner of Benchmark Mortgage. Now, Jim is a bit of a celebrity in this business. He's absolutely one of the all-time top-producing originators in this country, having funded in excess of $1.5 billion in his career. He has served as president and CEO for large mortgage operations. He still originates today. He has coached and consulted, trained. He speaks around the country all the time to mortgage originators and managers. And Jim is a great interview, and I know you're going to enjoy your time listening to him. And I guarantee you there are several concepts here that you'll be able to put into your business today to help you increase your production. So with that, here's my conversation with Jim McMahan.
Hey guys, how are you? Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on this call this morning at this amazing time of year. We are privileged to have Jay Hughes on the call with us today. Jay, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Good. Oh yeah. Well, guys, I knew of Jay through my affiliation with Daniel Harkavy and Building Champions since 1996, but Jay and I got to really meet, visit, kind of get some face-to-face time back in January of this year when I was up in Boise, Idaho, doing a seminar conference site visit with the Tuckers, Dean and Shauna Tucker, and Jay has been their personal business coach for quite a while, and he'll talk about that a little bit today. But, you know, what's unique about Jay, and some of you have heard me talk about him, we've introduced him a little bit to the company, but I really wanted him to be in your face, if you will, today, because he's a very talented guy. His background is just an amazing match for us, 18 years in the mortgage banking industry, in the origination side, selling side, managing, and now 7 years as an executive coach to specifically the mortgage industry and mortgage professionals. And the Tuckers have had amazing success with their affiliation with Jay. And so really thrilled to have you, man. And thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim. I'd love to open, Jim, with just a question for you, and let's just jump right into it. You and I visited a little bit about this the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
You're an optimistic guy. I'm an optimistic guy. So let's get your take on 2014, because I've talked to different folks, and there are some different opinions out there. So why do you think your folks should be excited about where we're going in 2014?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I appreciate you framing it that way. You know, I am an optimistic guy. I'm glasses half full. I have been my whole 27-year career, and it's worked out pretty well for me, even in times of, the S&L crisis that I've kind of really sharpened my teeth on in the mortgage industry. It was a really bad time, right? Well, I did really well. I made a lot of money and served people well. So I think the answer partly there, too, is in a tough time or challenging time with compliance and all these issues we have to face almost every quarter, something new. January, we get the, rollout of the Fannie Mae 100% audit rule and all these negative things, Jay. So, why be optimistic? Well, the optimistic side of this is through all these challenges come so many opportunities. And, even in life, as we all know, if you look at it, through most of your struggles and strife come most of your blessings through faith. So, when I look at 2014, it's definitely a labor of love. The last 5 years we've all been through, and a lot of the people listening on this call have been with Benchmark 2-3 years or longer now, and have watched us grow and do some pretty special things. And I look at it and look at the opportunity from like a reap and sow perspective. And, so many seeds have been sown right now, not only in our company, the way we're structured and set up from a service platform that most of our folks listening know how to take advantage of. But I want to really talk about how to hyperspeed that into this next year, because what's happening outside of the things you and I can control, and I'm talking about the listeners at Benchmark, is some reap and sow phenomenons in a marketplace that I want to make really clear that you're clear on. When you look at the combination right now, Jay, of rates, and that, yes, they've gone up, 150 basis point plus shift in an upward fashion in just a 90 to 120 day period. It doesn't happen that often, only 5, maybe 6 times in my 27-year career. So this was like the 5th or 6th one. That's a big deal, shocks the market a little bit, slows markets down for a while, but honestly, it's very healthy going into a new purchase year like this, because perspective-wise, even though we've gone from a 3.25, 3.5, 30-year conventional fixed rate world back in March, April, May, and we had touched it last fall for a little while, that shock and awe is over. We're in a mid-4s, high 4s to maybe touching into the low 5s in 2014 world. But I want to give you perspective there. That's right where rates were 22 months ago on the way down, and they were touching those levels, and everyone was saying, wow, 30 to 50-year low. And so a really powerful reality is we are still at a very, very low period in interest rates. The mindset will shift. You, the loan officer and originator, have to already have shifted to, hey, Mr. and Ms. Smith, 4 3/4 or 5% is a great rate. And then the reality of the shifting of the yield curve right now, I would really implore everyone to understand the reality of that. Short-term rates have moved almost none, Jay, in the past year. The one-year T-bill is 4 basis points higher than it was a year ago, where, long-term rates are 150, 160 basis points higher. So those are part of the reason that in the Reap and Sow platform I'm setting. But the other part is just the reality of, and I'm going to use an illustration here in a minute to really hit this home. There's things you can control, there's things you can't control. Put that first picture up if you have it, Garrett. I want to, now you may look at this and go, well, what's that? Well, that's a picture of my ranch. I own 2 ranch properties, one with my partners and one myself, and this one's in Lampasas County in the heart of the hill country in Texas. And that's a very dear friend of mine. My best friend's dad's standing there. And that lake, although I've only been a part owner in that ranch for a couple of years, that guy standing there started buying the first pieces of that ranch, my best friend's dad, in 1966. And he built this amazing, 8-10 acre lake that I've fished in, swam in, played in, hung out with my kids. Well, this picture was just earlier this year in April, and that lake had hit a 30-year low. It usually is up around the edges. It's almost touching those trees. That dock that you can barely see, Jack built that by hand this year because there was no water underneath it. From the corner of it, it goes straight down 15 feet and is touching dirt right now. And we all just marveled the last few years at this drought that Texas kind of had. And we've had, we'll get rains here and there. Had some pretty good rains, but nothing happened to this lake. It just kept going down and down and down. We were worried about losing the big bass. It's been stocked with Florida bass. Earlier this year, just a few months ago, in fact, it was late August, we had pretty decent summer rains, but we got one particular rain about August 29th, and Jack sent me a picture. Pop to the next slide.
I was going to say, that doesn't look like much of a lake right there, Jim. That looks like a lake.
Now, had Jack stayed where he was standing, he would have drowned.
Right.
And just my point is, just use this illustration, and we're going to go back to the other picture in a minute. Now, this was the day after the rain. This filled up in 24 hours after sitting there getting lower and lower and lower for 5 or 6 or 7 of the last years. This gorgeous lake that we built on this ranch over the last 10, 15 years. And, it's amazing. This is the perfect illustration for the marketplace we could be moving into in 2014. You've kind of had this drain on the lake the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, Jay. Everybody is, just positioned and managed and worked their way to handle what's down there. Hopefully you've been smart enough to do things like, over the last few years, we've cleaned up the sides of the lake. We've cut out dead trees. We've done a lot of pruning and cleaning and planting and getting ready for the flood. It's a great illustration for, even though I'm not going to tell you that this is going to be the greatest volume year next year in the history of mortgages, what it's going to be is a percentage rise. When you look at combination, for instance, my good friend Steve Harney, who all of our people know, and he's done 13, 14 seminars for us, he's talking about a pent-up demand of people that wanted to list their houses the last few years that he think will start to uncork next spring, late winter, because the markets have improved. They're the best they've been in 5 or 6 years, so that's going to solve some of the inventory problem. Unemployment numbers, even though they're not great, they're improved by 1.5% from a year ago. That's hundreds of thousands of jobs more in the marketplace. We had a nice surprise number of jobs this past month.
Right.
That's another piece that starts to break the dam down. And see, the reason this lake, by the way, filled up in that one rain is it wasn't just because of that one rain. It's because the 2 and 3 lakes above us in the chain, if you went on a Google map right now and looked at Binion Creek in Lampasas County, which feeds our lake, the 2 or 3 lakes above had drained down. Well, in the previous rains in the spring and early summer, those got filled up, Jay. And then finally, when they got filled up, they spilled over and filled our lakes. And that's what's happening in this marketplace right now, is all this backing and filling. To think that 36 months ago you had 7.4 million inventory in shadow inventory, and now it's down to under 1 million units nationally. Still REOs and that kind of stuff, but it's a much more balanced number. So there's just so many things coming upstream from you all right now that you don't quite understand. They're going to fill the lake in a different way in a purchase market in 2014, and the combination again of phenomenal rates. You need to surgically remove 3.25, 3.5 out of your brain, Jay.
No kidding.
Yeah, 4.5 to 5.25 is an amazing number, especially when you can still leverage into the 2s and 3s on 3, 5, and 7-year arms for the relocation buyer and that kind of stuff. And you're going to have this kind of phenomenon in that picture. Your lake could be that full. And so that's why I'm so excited about 2014. I've done this a long time. I've had a consulting practice for 18 years. I've studied the markets way different than most people do. And I've been pretty darn accurate on predicting stuff over that time. And I would predict that the purchase market for 2014 will be one of the best we've seen in 20 years.
Wow. That is, I love the picture. Thank you so much for sharing those today. It's just like you said, it's an incredible illustration of kind of the opportunity that sits before us, and kind of the descriptor too of not being able to see all the factors that go into how that lake's going to be filled, and it's interesting because as I'm talking to producers both at Benchmark and all the different companies that I coach with, there are people that aren't as optimistic, maybe a little bit discouraged, but as we're talking through, it's like, well, you can see some of these factors lining up, and I really encourage them to think about asking the question like, well, why not me? Why not me? You talked about earlier, early in your career, it was a tough market. Todd Duncan has mentioned that several times, that when he jumped into the business, rates at 16, 17%. But that question, why not me? That answers a lot of uncertainty, because there are going to be people they're going to take advantage of, in this analogy of the lake being full. And I would just encourage the folks on the call, like, seize that opportunity and look at this analogy and know that it's the time putting in right now. To stay with the lake analogy, it's cutting down dead trees. It's making the preparations so that when that lake fills, like, you're ready to go. You're ready to go. So anyway, thank you very much. That's a great illustration. But let's stay on that for just a moment. We've got another maybe 10 minutes or so we can visit about this. Yeah. But so in your estimation, where do you think loan officers should be spending their time right now? I mean, if they're going to be cutting things away, making these preparations, like, where should they be focusing time, energy, and attention in order to make the biggest impact in this purchase market for 2014?
Yeah, great question. So that leads to this, and I'm just going to state it in a short statement and then elaborate.
Yeah.
Quit wasting your time. When you really look right now, the biggest word I would start to capitalize on in mid-November, 6 weeks away from the end of the year, 6 weeks away from the beginning of a new, possibly best year of your career, efficiencies. We've got to maximize efficiencies. And some people may think, well, I am, but no, maybe not. I mean, if you did have a flood coming and you knew it was coming, what would you do to prepare for it? When I look at, again, the dry lake picture, the couple rains before us on our ranch, the guy above us, the ranch above us, which we know him, name's Drew Hall. The Hall's lake got full, so his picture looked like my picture 4 months before. And that's the problem with some of the folks listening right now, is they haven't done the preparation. There actually will be people, hopefully not on this call because they're part of Benchmark, but I promise you there'll be people in this industry that by December of 2014 are still going to be sitting by a dry lake. And that's because they didn't move, shift, and shift is probably a really key word right now, because there is a constricted marketplace, but there's going to be a larger percentage. In other words, if a marketplace is at 70% capacity and then it moves to 91% capacity, well, that 21% extra points up, if you do the math, that's a 30% rise in that marketplace. That fills a lot of boats, maybe not all boats. And so you've got to shift to where the marketplace is. And the marketplace is going to be with people that are preparing, that have got the best utilization of efficiencies in technology, marketing, clients, past client databases. And so, see, it's time to do inventory, Jay. That's what I would be doing right now. I would first take and spend on time in my business looking at where my business came from the last 24 months. If I don't know that, I'm prepared to sit by a dry lake.
Right.
I have the risk of it. I need to really evaluate where my business came from. list it out, literally break down the loan and bunch them into, okay, Mary from Remax sent me these, Bob from Caldwell Banker sent me those, these 18 loans came from past clients. Which past clients? Don't just say past clients, break it down. And then let's really break that down to where was the efficient business, where was the most profitable business, who was the highest maintenance business, who was the lowest maintenance, who was the highest payoff, etc. Simple but powerful exercise, because now I can take a knife and I can cut the part that was high maintenance, low payoff, and just throw it away. And then focus only on that top 20, 40%. And then the next piece is that I do be doing right now is who am I going to add? What, because you have capacity, I guarantee you right now. What 2 to 3 new referral sources coming from this powerful group of people that have sent me business the last 24 months. You don't need to necessarily go get new. You need to dive into current and old and find that, for instance, your best realtor partner is going to tell you who the new up-and-comer is at the Keller Williams office they're in or the Caldwell Banker office they're in. Just ask, hey, Mary, by the way, I'm growing my business this year. I'm only going to grow by 1 or 2 people. Really looking for somebody that matches up to my values and our kind of thinking. Who would that be in your office? Don't even have to answer me today. Just let me know in the next 48 hours. I'd be very efficiently looking at how I grow my capacity to take in loans and find good referral partners by 20 or 30% right now.
Excellent answer. And I know you asked me as well to share a couple things. On that, yep. I think what you're describing is definitely a portion of business planning. And so that would be my exhortation to those on the call. Almost everybody, well, actually not almost, every single private client that I'm working with right now, that is where we're spending time, is business planning for 2014. And that is a concept that is also often overlooked. And we think, oh, I don't need a plan. I've never had a plan before. I've existed. I've done well without a plan. But I would really challenge the folks as well to I actually teach a simple business plan, a one-page business plan. Write down your goals. Jim, as you were saying, take inventory of where your business came from. Take a moment, take 5 minutes, and dream a little bit. Where do you want to be in 2014? What do you want your lake to look like? And really picture it, because we strive after the pictures in our mind. And so if you envision, what is that envisioned future that you really, really want? Take some time to meditate on that. Think about that. And then you can round out the rest of your one-page business plan with simply that question you asked, like who to add, who are the 2 or 3 people that I could add this year will make a huge impact on my business, what are the daily and weekly disciplines that I need to have in my business right now in order to clear the dead wood away and prepare for this lake. And third would be are there other projects, are there other big items that aren't necessarily daily or weekly disciplines, but it could be hiring an assistant or something like that, a project that once complete will have a huge impact. That piece right there, I think, ties in directly kind of to what you're describing, and will help people really prepare for 2014. We don't have a ton of time. I'll throw one other quick question at you. I'd like to know, I mean, you were a huge producer. You still produce. And you've got perspective. You've got, you've worked with and consulted with a lot of folks over the years. You manage a lot of people today. What would you say is a key to being successful as a loan officer, but one that maybe is often overlooked? Something that people either gloss over, maybe pay lip service to. Yeah, I've heard that before, but like you feel like is a bedrock principle for being successful.
Okay. Great question. Here's the answer. Probably the biggest thing that's overlooked and not taken seriously is an individual originator's message in the marketplace. If there was one thing I was going to focus on at the end of a year and going into a new year with this kind of potential, but yet very unique potential, it's a little bit of you got to hunt it down and find it and capture it potential, but then you do, and you're going to have this amazing year. Your message in the marketplace is this. Every time I give this talk, people always go, oh, that's really relevant. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so therefore, I'm going to go get a message in the marketplace. No, let me tell you something. You already got one. If I trailed everybody around on this phone call and picked your best 5 realtors and the last 5 customers you closed, I could interview them each for an hour, 10 hours of interview. I could write a literally detailed doctorate on your message in the marketplace. It may shock you. You may agree with it, but you got one. And the key is to get control of it and point it much more like an arrow at the target. It's Duncan's law of the bullseye. you're going to hit where you aim. And the message in the market is so powerful, because if my message in the market can be really clear that this year I want to really serve with an education platform, an advice-based model, and an opinion-based model on what's best for the client through a high-trust interview, and all my referral partners know that that's my message, and that if they get a client to me, the client will get this certain outcome with such certainty, it just reverberates of quality and class and more business for the referral partner. That's a really cool message. Versus just a message that might be sort of out there of, hey, my guy or gal gets my loans done, they close on time, their service is amazing at Benchmark. I mean, all the cool things we have, a lot of people just let that be their message, versus sitting down with each referral partner, which you should do right now at the end of the year, and just really review the year, review what went right, review what went wrong, and then hone the message. Hey, you're my top realtor, Jay. Hey, Jay, I just want to clarify, who we are in November, and it's been such an amazing year. You've sent me 22 closed loans. We've had pretty good success. We just reviewed a few of them, what went right, what went wrong. We reviewed with our staffs and our teams. But, I want to make clear to you, Jay, if I haven't before, my message this year in 2014 is, in other words, that direct. And it's, for me, it would be what I just told you. Each one of your clients, when they come in and see my 45-minute presentation, Jay, and that's why I want you to really stand by me on making sure all of them see it, is that they're going to get this kind of assessment, this kind of high-trust interview, this kind of outcome, this kind of analysis of what's the best strategy. If someone just says, hey, what's your 30 fix? I'm going to say, Mr. Smith, one of the reasons Jay uses me is because even though we may do a 30-year fix, I just don't want to assess what's best for you. When you're coming in to borrow this much money, in other words, I could rattle on, but the point is, do you have a clear message in the marketplace, and is it transferred enough to the referral partners that you want to affect, so that they're helping to share your message? Because one of the most powerful things you can do once you have a message, Jay, is you get that message on the back or the wings of others. And that's how I did 100 million several years in a row while I still had a balanced life and did lots of seminars and that kind of stuff. Is I had a very clear message that enough other messengers were taking my message to the marketplace and to clients over and over and over and over and over, and it still reverberates today in a past client database.
Wow.
So that'd be the most important thing that many overlook, is what's my message, and is it being carried properly to the marketplace?
Well, you've been listening to my interview with Jim McMahan, president and partner at Benchmark Mortgage, and I want to thank Jim again so much for being my guest. And if you liked what you heard, if you got a lot out of today's message, please be sure to drop Jim a line and let him know. You can express your appreciation to him. His email address is jim@benchmark.us. Well, again, this is Jay Hughes from Press On, helping you close more loans in less time.